Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I'm joined by Lisa Tahir. She is a therapist, podcaster, author, and artist. Lisa, thank you so much for coming to the Spiritual Spotlight series. I'm so excited you're here.
Rachel, I'm so delighted to be on your show. Thank you so much for having me.
So, one of the things that I was looking at is that you've worn many hats, from a licensed clinical social worker to a Reiki healer and even a thought coach. How do these different modalities intersect in your work?
That's a good question, Rachel. I've been a therapist for 23 years. And before that, I started therapy when I was just 21 years old. And when I sat in my social worker's office, I knew this is what I want to do with my life is help people heal their emotional wounds as she helped me. And so over the years of my personal and professional development, which really have happened simultaneously, I've love to learn different treatments and modalities. And because of my curiosity, I was led to get a Reiki certification as well as EMDR and working with our thoughts to shift the beliefs that we have that
Mm.
then inform our decisions and then the lives that we're living. So it's just been a natural progression as I develop personally and professionally to learn more so I can offer that to clients and on my podcast as well.
I love that. And I love the fact that you started, and I'm sure you've always been spiritual and probably having a sense of a spiritual self, but I love the fact that you're able to blend in therapy with your work. Because it's almost like some people may not tap into the spiritual side, but when you blend in the therapy side of it, I bet a lot more of your clients are much more open and resonant with the work that you do.
Actually, Rachel, I had always kept them pretty separate
Oh, really? Interesting.
until the last say 8 years when I was in school to be a therapist. We were taught at that time that spiritual beliefs and such are separate from psychological healing, and so I always felt like I didn't want to step on toes by bringing up spirituality or religion or that kind of thing. And then I started to think just as I grew, like how silly that is because what we believe or don't believe about what's beyond what we see, what we can touch, is really important to know in working with somebody and their emotional pain and healing of that pain. Because some people believe that there is a nurturing and supportive creator or energy, and that can be such a source of soothing and peace and just help. And then other people don't. They might believe in science or nature. So I think it's of utmost importance now to address, hey, what do you believe spiritually, like about God or however you call it or define this
Mhm.
area of your life. And a lot of times clients are like, oh my gosh, Lisa, I never even thought of that. And so I think it's something, fortunately, that's being incorporated into psychotherapy or spirituality and what we believe to be true about what we don't see.
I find it very interesting that it was separate categories. I will say that me being a registered nurse, I have found that sometimes it blends together and sometimes it's like I live two different lives. So it probably felt the same way for you. It's like, oh. Like
Exactly like you're describing. Yes. And for you as a nurse, how important as well, since you're dealing with people and their physical healing and how scary that can be sometime and people needing hope and something to hold on to.
yeah, and they necessarily may not want to talk about, well, let me talk about your angels.
Right, right. Yes, but they're there.
100%. So I love the fact I've never heard of this psycho astrology. What inspired you to develop this concept and how does it provide value to your clients?
Rachel, psychoastrology is simply where your natal astrology, your birth chart, meets your psychological development. And it was a term that actually a friend of mine and I came up with in conversation. And it just seems so natural. Psychoastrology, your mental health, your personal psychology, and that blueprint of when you were born, your personal astrology, which some of you listening or watching might have issue with because I even used to think, Rachel, like, okay, I don't believe that the stars in the sky when I was born dictates the life that I'm living. And I had this huge aha just about a year ago where I realized I wrote my birth chart. You wrote your own birth chart. We created, when we don't have conscious memory of it, I think a lot of us, of before we came into this physical body, the life we wanted to live, the things we wanted to experience. And that's reflected in our natal birth chart, this general blueprint. And we can change any of those placements. We can learn and grow and develop how to, say, handle money better. If your chart's showing that that's an area of weakness or deficiency, or in your love life, that we can absolutely gain skills and resources to be functioning well in every area of our lives. And I think astrology is a beautiful symbolic language to help us understand ourselves and the life that we wanted to live. What do you believe about that?
I feel like you just gave me my aha moment because I
Okay.
truly believe that we do write our birth charts before we come here. We choose our lessons, we choose everything, what team we're working with, like the blueprint. And
Yeah.
never have I brought it to, oh, I may have written my astrology chart also. I've never
Yes.
brought it to that because I like you, I have always hemmed and haw. Like things make sense and it resonates and things like that with me with my birth chart, but then I'm like, ugh, I get angry, you know? So
Yeah.
thank you for my aha moment.
You're welcome. And now you don't have to feel angry. You can just have more compassion with yourself. And that maybe before you came here, you wanted to learn certain things that have been challenging or painful, but we can start to heal ourselves so completely that we begin to learn through loving experiences and really wonderful things, that you don't have to have the pain point experiences to grow and change. You can use your intuition, which is always navigating us
Yeah.
easily around things and to the things we want, when we take time to listen to our inner voice and our inner self. And even if it doesn't make sense, to trust that we can listen to that voice to bring us happily and with ease to the things that we desire.
And I feel like it's almost like, yes, there could be things that we need to work on, but it's more of a inner reflection and a, okay, you chose this. Let's look at it. What is the lesson I'm supposed to learn here? And then how do you move forward from it? Instead
Right.
of, like you said, don't be angry.
Yeah, my book centers around self-forgiveness. Thank you, Rachel, for
So
holding up. Yeah.
we're going to talk about the book.
Yeah.
So this is the Chiron effect, healing our core wounds through astrology, empathy, and self-forgiveness. This is a powerful transformational book that I highly recommend anyone, even if you don't want to look at your birth chart. This is the I would look at this 100%. I love this. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
What kind of started you on this path to writing this book?
This book is the answer to the question that I was asking of myself, of the universe. Why is it that my clients who are really successful, a lot of them functioning so well in their lives, why are they still experiencing sometime debilitating anxiety and depression?
Mhm.
And why am I, as healed and as gifted, and how much work I've done on myself, why am I still feeling depression and anxiety? And that was my question. Like, what am I missing? What is there, like, looking under every rock for solutions and answers? And as I asked that question in meditation, I just simply started to hear the word Chiron,
Mm,
Chiron. And that didn't make a lot of sense, Rachel, because my knowledge of Chiron at that time had only to do with Carl Jung and his writing about the archetypes and the
mm.
collective unconscious, and Chiron, the wounded healer archetype. And it wasn't really exciting. And I kept asking the question and I kept getting the same answer, Chiron, to the point where I'm sure some of you listening, you finally turned to, like, I'm going to Google this. And that's what I did. I just started Googling Chiron, and I learned all kinds of things. That Chiron in Greek mythology was a centaur. He was the founding father of the healing arts, of botany. And when you go to the doctor and you see the staff of medicine, the staff with the two snakes intertwined, Chiron gave that to Asclepius, who he tutored. And so he's the founder of modern day medicine. as well as in astronomy in the 70s, a minor planet and comet, it has both designations, that orbits between Saturn and Uranus was discovered by an astronomer and named Chiron because it had an odd elliptical orbit between Saturn and Uranus, and it was the first of the Centaur class, referencing Chiron the Centaur in Greek mythology. And so I started to feel a little more excited about this. Like there's a lot here about Chiron. And then when I looked at astrology, Chiron is this placement in your birth chart, like you know your moon, your rising
Yeah.
sign, etc. I had never been told about Chiron in my birth chart. And this reveals one of 12 areas of vulnerability that you have emotionally, psychologically. And it can even be a core wounding when you've experienced things like sexual abuse, trauma, neglect, and these wounds emotionally cause us to have beliefs about ourselves, usually in the deficient side of the spectrum. Like we're not good enough, things don't work out for us, when we've been neglected or abandoned. Chiron in the sign of Cancer, core wounding by abandonment. We tend to feel like maybe we don't deserve to be loved. So I started to see this complete correlation between Chiron and the patterns of thought that we have and the beliefs that we make about ourselves. And that kept me writing for 4.5 years, Rachel, till this
Wow.
book was complete.
I have to tell you, so one of my friends introduced me to this book, because, and she loves it. And I will say that when I looked up where my Chiron is, it's in Taurus, it 100% reflects what happened in my childhood.
Neglect.
Neglect. Like
Yeah.
I had a mom that was put in a mental health institution, didn't have food, like all of
Mm,
this. And I'm like, and
wow.
reading it, at first it's a little like, "Oh my goodness," but I feel like you see me, as a wounded person, and you give us such good tips for
Thank
how
you.
to self-reflect, how to heal, and how to become empowered, because I believe
Yes.
that's ultimately the goal of reading this book, is to really truly, look at the core wounds, look at the self-destructive patterns, and what are ways to kind of move forward and heal.
Yes. Thank you. It is so you can heal and be happy and not feel ashamed by
Yes.
the things that happened when you were growing up or in your life that you maybe did to yourself in a self destructive pattern, to really forgive yourself and be able to gain the wisdom from what you experience because you can use it to help others. Like you're a podcaster and a nurse, and you've used that wound of neglect to not neglect others and help them as well as yourself to really be seen authentically. And I can tell that makes you so happy.
It does.
Yeah. And that's what we're here to do, is really be happy.
It really does. And I love, like, honestly, I feel like your book is a way to just kind of dig in a little bit more. And it looks, for me, it also looks at the shadow side, the
Mhm.
darker aspects of ourselves that maybe we don't necessarily want to look at. But the way
Right.
that you present it, it's more attainable. It's more digestible. Like it makes sense, it resonates, and you give us action steps.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, like for me, my Chiron is in the sign of Aries, and that speaks to a core wounding in one's sense of self.
Mm.
And it's something that it's in my first house of my personality, so it's not something anyone else would know, but it made so much sense that I would engage in people pleasing patterns to source love, because that's how I grew up, having to really kind of earn your keep, that belief, like having to do things to be loved versus just being loved for who you are, that you don't have to do anything, you're just worthy. So it has to do with value and worth.
Mm.
And I had turned to addictive patterns to try to mitigate not feeling worthy or good enough. And so it just helped me so much to understand whenever I might, if my mood takes a dip, that usually it's in this area of value and worth. So I just go right there, like, hey, Lisa, like, what are you feeling like isn't working out for you, or that you're needing to effort more, and it helps me just soothe myself so quickly in that one area, so I'm not going into depression or anxiety. It's more of like a little ouch, and then I know what to do to help myself through it, even if it's just to like go for a walk, put this down for today. And so
Yeah.
you learn how to care for yourself with more ease and allowing that ebb and flow of your emotion to pass through you and out of you, and with more gentleness instead of self-criticism.
Yeah, absolutely. So you offer a number of steps for people to shift from self-destructive patterns based on their Chiron placement. Can you maybe share a few takeaways that people can expect to gain from your book?
Sure. And I think it depends on where you are in that process, because not some of you are in a self destructive pattern that's making you upset and unhappy. And others of you are just having more of like ouch moments. So I see this on a spectrum, that there's vulnerability and ouch all the way up to and including, self harm and destructive thoughts, like you don't believe you have a right to be here, like suicidal thoughts. So that's more the deep core wounding. So it spreads the range of emotions. So wherever you find yourself, each placement of Chiron, I give specific takeaways for that wounding and vulnerability. So Chiron in Taurus by neglect is, say, a bit different than Chiron in Aries through feeling like you're not good enough. And so it would depend truly on where. So I made it like really super tailored for
Mm,
individual people, or Chiron in Aquarius, where you don't feel a sense of community, like you don't know where your tribe is. So say if that's where your wounding is and your vulnerability, like people living in a city and just feeling like it doesn't fit for them, and that causes unhappiness, like, and loneliness. So I suggest there, say, to look at meetup.com, which was so helpful for me when I went out to Los Angeles to start creating community, and going to some meetups to meet some people that are doing things that you enjoy. So to start with an activity, something that is really has meaning and value. And for this placement, it's usually humanitarian things, like you might go pick up trash on the beach together. And doing that over time, you'll create some personal friendships and relationships. So it's takeaways like that, where
yeah.
you can start today trying some new things.
I like that. It's like action steps, and you may be just a little moment, like an ouch, like you said, or you might be in some more self-destructive, patterns that maybe you're working with a therapist to resolve, and
Exactly.
working with this book can help you just take it to the next level.
Yes.
I
Thank
love
you.
that. That's perfect. Let me ask you this, because you brought up Los Angeles. So you live between two vibrant cities, New Orleans and Los Angeles. How did the energy of these two different locations influence your practice and your approach to healing?
That's a great question, Rachel. I love both cities so much. I'm born and raised here in New Orleans, where I am today speaking with you, and my whole family's here. And it's such a wonderful place. If any of you have been, good food and music and nice people. Yet I felt like I wanted to push myself to live elsewhere
Mm,
and see what that's like, having to make new friends instead of having friends that I grew up with. And it was really challenging, Rachel, when I went out to LA 9 years ago, having to start from scratch, creating a community and not even knowing where I'm going to the grocery, and just totally dependent on navigation. And I talk in my book that I lived out of my office and showered at a gym up the street when I first went there, because I couldn't afford 2 homes. So, and if sometime if you wait for the full thing to manifest, you might never do it.
mm.
So I asked the owners of my office, I know this is really weird, but can I live here and like shower at a gym down the street? And they were like, "Oh my God, we have never even thought of that or allowed that. But sure, we'll try this. Like we have a good feeling about you." And that enabled me over a year and a half to be able to have a second place there. So sometime, and I talk in that part of my book, sometime when you have a dream,
Mm.
there's not the obvious means to its accomplishment from where you sit right now. But if you just take the little steps that come to you, even if they're really weird, like asking someone to live in an office, can you even imagine? Like, I felt really embarrassed to even ask that, but I'm so glad I did, because they said yes. And now I live in Los Angeles part time in my own place. And it's just like the path will unfold under your feet when you just take those little steps. And I even thought to do that because going through Hurricane Katrina
Mm.
here in New Orleans was so awful, and everyone was displaced for 8 months. And then it took over 2 years to rebuild the city. And during that time, I was evacuated in Baton Rouge and lived in my office and showered at the gym across the street and had no idea that that lesson would help me years later when
Yeah.
I wanted to live in LA. So pay attention to some of the things that you grow through because they could be preparing you for the big dreams that you have.
I really like how you put that, prepare the things that you grow through. Like there may
Mhm.
be challenges, but you're growing through them to prepare you maybe to something bigger.
100%. Because Katrina, it was like awful for everyone that went through it. And I had no idea it was preparing me to live in this amazing city where I've had exposure in LA to the best teachers and speakers. And the energy there for me was around success in a different way
Hmm.
than I had experienced in New Orleans. A lot of my friends had podcasts and TV shows, and I never even thought in a million years to do any of that. And so it opened my mind to starting a podcast, which I did in 2014 called All Things Therapy. And now I have almost 300 weekly episodes.
Wow.
And I would never have done that had I not been to LA and been exposed to people doing things bigger than
Mm.
where I was in my life. And I love that being exposing yourself to people just like beyond where you are that you can admire and use as like a mentor to help you further your development in whatever area is significant to you, be it a relationship, financial abundance, to really identify people doing things that you think you might want to do and taking those steps as you're inspired. And then you inhabit that, you become that. And so I just think that's so beautiful
I,
about growth.
I love that. So let's talk about your podcast, All Things Therapy. It's a treasure trove of valuable conversations. Maybe what are some of the most impactful interviews that you feel align with your mission of changing consciousness?
Thank you, Rachel. That's the mission is to change consciousness one conversation at a time. And we're doing that right now together on your show.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
yes, I just love interviewing different people. Sometimes it's friends, sometimes it's authors like John Gray, who wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. So the whole spectrum. And I've started to do some solo episodes, which weren't super comfortable for me to just say, take 15, 20 minutes to share on a topic that comes up for me during the week. And I'm
Yeah.
still working on that. That's still my growing edge right now is getting comfortable with that. Do you ever do that? Like
I
solo
as you're saying that, I'm like, I know that I need to challenge myself to do that, and that's gonna be my next step because it feels a little awkward. So I appreciate you and bringing it up and acknowledging that it's maybe a little weird, but you know you need to do it.
I agree. Yes. So that's kind of, I feel like people have really liked some of the solo shows and other shows I've done with women that are mediums and psychics and healers, as well as scientists and
Mm,
psychologists and business people on finance. I feel like all things therapy
yeah.
encompasses every area of our lives. So just I want to help people be healthier in every single area that is important to you.
I love that. And if anyone's interested in checking out your podcast, is it available on all podcast platforms,
Exactly,
Spotify?
just like yours
Perfect.
is. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So
Thank you.
anyone, make sure to check that out because you have over 300 episodes. It's been going on a long time since 2014. So I bet you there's a lot of amazing interviews in there.
Thank you. When did you start your show,
I
Rachel?
started my show in 2022. So I
That's
have
amazing.
little over 112 episodes.
That's a lot. Congratulations. That's a lot in a short time.
Why, thank you.
Wow. Impressed. I'm
Thank you so
impressed.
much. Thank
Yeah.
you. So let me ask you this. In terms of self-care, you're quite active from surfing to indoor rock climbing. How important is physical fitness in maintaining emotional and spiritual well-being?
Rachel, the body and mind and spirit are so intertwined, and something you do to help one of those areas affects the other two
Mm,
naturally, like throwing the rock in a pond and it ripples out. So people, I think, sometime are more comfortable with one of those areas more than the other two. And for me, physical fitness has always been a go-to since I was 21 and started working out in a gym, lifting weights. It's always been like I feel like I'm playing. And so that was so much easier than me for me than my spiritual
Mhm.
development. Things like meditation, which I didn't do until the last maybe 10 years, 8 to 10 years. And so for me, I really had to learn and go to meditations hosted by others, use YouTube guided meditations, which I still do, in order to work up to sometime setting a timer for 10 or 20 minutes and
Mhm.
doing the silent meditation. So I had to learn those kind of skills. And so wherever you are in those three areas, look at where maybe you're less comfortable and challenge yourself. I love 30-day experiments to try something new. And I started meditating because I said, I'm just going to do it for 30 days every morning for 4 minutes and see what happens. Like, I'm not going to debate this with myself. I'm just showing up, period. And we'll reevaluate this in 30 days, Lisa, is what I told myself. And I started to feel so good, even halfway through the month, that I understood the value of meditation to calm your mind. It actually allows solutions to arise within your mind that then you can take action on, and things started to flow better. So wherever you are, I feel led to share that, to just develop the part of yourself that might feel like it lags a little bit, so that to see how that affects your life.
And I like the idea of doing a 30-day challenge. Anyone can stick to something for 30 days.
Yeah.
I
I
like
think if
that.
you and give yourself little rewards, like say for when I meditated like that, I go treat myself to like a yogurt or a beer or, like to give yourself little rewards. Oh,
My
your
dog
sweet
is
pup.
my dog is agreeing with you. Give
Your
yourself rewards.
your dog wants a treat.
He's like, hey, you said the T word. You said the T
Yes.
word. So let me ask you this. If anyone is interested in learning more about you, and maybe I'm not sure if you do one-on-one work or anything like that, what is the best place for someone to go to?
Yeah, Rachel, and anybody that listens to your show or mentions you or your podcast, I'm happy to do half off an individual session. They're usually $190 per
Oh,
45 minutes. So it'll be half of that, 95. And I do Zoom and FaceTime and phone sessions. And you can find me on Google, Lisa Tahir, or through my website, nolatherapy.com. It stands for New Orleans, Los Angeles Therapy, and that's my Instagram and YouTube. Or you can email me, lisa@nolatherapy.com as well.
I love that. So as we close, do you have any upcoming projects or new avenues you're exploring that you like to share with our spiritual spotlight community?
Oh, that's so thoughtful. I really love doing this, Rachel. This is like a favorite thing in my life is to sit like with you, and now we're connected, and I love your spirit and your energy. Just I'd love to continue to be on more podcasts and help people learn to heal and forgive themselves so you can be happier.
I love that. Lisa, thank you so, so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight series. Again, make sure to check out The Chiron Effect. This is a wonderful book. Make sure you go to her website and check out her podcast. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you, Rachel.